I'm John Bollinger from Air Guitar, and we're at Seymour Duncan, and I'm with MJ. And MJ, you're a legendary person in the music industry, in the pickup world, and it's just great to actually finally meet you.
Well, likewise in here. I mean, it's a great pleasure to have you guys here. I mean, celebrating my 40th anniversary this past last week at Seymour Duncan, and enjoying every single moment of it. It's just kind of, to me, I spend more time here than I do at home, and I do it because I love my job. I love every single thing that I do since the very first day.
Okay, so how did you fall in love with the whole thing? Like when you first got this job, what did you...
First, I fell in love with Peter Frampton.
Well, who hasn't?
Who hasn't, And I mean, me being one of 16 kids, I mean, one of my oldest brothers would get up and listen to Creedence, to Chicago, to Earth, Wind and Fire, and me, it was most of the time Peter Frampton.
Oh yeah, Frampton Comes Alive.
Frampton Comes Alive. And believe it or not, I never applied at Seymour Duncan. Somebody went and knocked on my door and asked me to give them a ride to Seymour Duncan.
Really?
Yes. And the next moment I knew, I put myself as a reference, I gave it the ride, I went with her to the interview. 3 hours later, they called me and they offered me the job. And I said, I'm sorry, but I was only the chauffeur. Oh, we know that. But would you like to come and work for us? But I didn't fill out an application. Oh, we know that. But would you like to come and work for us? But I'm not looking for a job because I had a brand new baby and it just left my old job. Would you like to think and come and work for us? I called my mother. And my mom, if she didn't have any kids at home, she would borrow the neighbors. So when I told her I had a job offer and she was going to babysit, oh my God, that was too joyful. So I said, okay, I'm going to give it a try. Not knowing that at Seymour Duncan, they make guitar pickups. Because if somebody would tell me they make pickups, I would have said, Chevy or Ford. I was in love with Peter Frampton, but I didn't know that he needed pickups on his guitar, So when I went, and my very, very first pickups at Seymour Duncan were for Jimmy Page. I did 5 Jimmy Page humbuckers, and they said, oh, no, you have to deliver them to Seymour, to his office because, he needed to send them to Jimmy Page. When I go and see Seymour, in the back, bookcase that he had, it was an unbatch of Peter Frampton. I'm going, oh, do you know him? Yeah. No, really, do you know him? Yes. When he told me yes 3 times, I said, I'm staying here. I'm going to meet Peter Frampton. That was the moment I fell in love with Seymour Duncan pickups, because I was going to meet Peter Frampton. So I go back to my place and start saying, okay, this is a humbucker, but it has 4 wires. How am I going to make notes that I'm going to remember and I'm going to treasure me so I can keep my job and meet Peter Frampton, So I go, there's 2 bobbins, one adjustable and one not adjustable. Okay, I call the adjustable the señorita, and I call the not adjustable the señora. Okay, and said, it has 4 wires. The black and white and the green and red. When I was going to put it together, how? Okay, salt and pepper and salsa and guacamole. Okay. And the north side of the magnet always goes on the salt and pepper, And the south side always on the salsa and guacamole, And I start doing my notes back then, when I started on March 15 of 1983. And believe it or not, all those notes, I didn't know at that point that Seymour W. Duncan was a very, very, he would write notes on anything. On anything. So when he saw that I had the potential, because I used to write all my notes of everything that I was doing, he goes, okay, she comes to work for me. So I end up being Seymour's right-hand, person. And it was funny because through the years, I used to take a guitar pickup order in the custom shop, and okay, what kind of guitar do you have? Tell me. And I'm taking notes of the guitar, what kind of wood, what kind of tone and volume pads, what kind of strings, and I'm taking the notes. And Seymour sitting right next to me also, laughing and taking the notes at the same time, And then when I finish the phone call, MJ, what do you got? No, you show me first. No, MJ, what do you got? Okay, at the same time. And then we used to flip the papers. And if they weren't 100%, together, I said, why? He goes, MJ, you forgot you didn't hear this. Seymour, but do you hear this and this? Oh, yeah. Okay, then we should make this, And this is how, the learning, it was together because we always work, we'd never compete. We always put our 2 cents together and work together. And this is why it makes the job even more joyful. We end up putting names in all of our magnets. We end up putting names in all magnet wire as well. So whenever we wanted to go ahead and make a pickup that we didn't want nobody else to know, MJ, he used to give me the codes. And then I used to make the pickup for him, and what is that? Oh, it's something that we know, huh, MJ, but always with a smile on his face. So, I end up kind of it's not as stressful to come to work. It's kind of joyful to come to work. I can say that, this is my home, and then I have a second home where I go and sleep. But, working at Seymour Duncan, writing all my notes and having everything done.
Yeah, do you still have some of your notes?
Let me show you guys. These are pickups that we did for Eddie Van Halen. That was before my time, but I go back to the notes back in 1978. We have Billy Gibbons in here, okay? We have Eric Clapton, Albert Lee, Steve Miller. These were more Eddie Van Halen because they were for Charbel, CC Tops. In here you can find Hart, Jeff Beck.
So when you're
Holdsworth.
when you're looking for, I don't know, when you're trying to remember what you did for somebody, do you literally just dig through your old notebooks?
Usually what I was doing, I have an Excel sheet that I go and it will tell me. Eric Johnson. The last order, MJ, remember the pickups you did back in 19 so-and-so, because I do so many through the years. Yes, I look Eric Johnson. I look for that particular year. I go to my boxes and I had the boxes by year. And then by alphabet. So I go, the box from 1997, And then I go and get my box and, But this is including even the letters that Eric Johnson.
Oh, that's great.
And Joe Walsh and everybody used to write to Seymour for a repair pickup. So, not only on the pickups that we did, but all rewinds. This is how we can recreate a new pickup up to the specs, because as you can see, screws, wire, everything. This is how a pickup was done, Having all these notes, having the history of the pickup, it kind of said, Gibson, when they needed some repair bases, nobody was big on history, as I learned from Seymour, and they said, we need some repair bases, but how? Oh, call MJ. They know how to make them over there. They have all the notes. The same thing happened when they needed the Dynasonics for Dwayne Eddy. Call Seymour Duncan. They got their stuff together over there. They have all the notes on how to do, the stuff.
So the manufacturer had to go to you to learn how to make their stuff.
No, usually we make them for them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we make them for them. And this is the way that archiving all the history of all pickups, it helps us to recreate the old lap steels, the old Staples, the old Dynasonics, the old, Brian Mays, the old, any old vintage pickup that it was done back then, we're able to recreate it in here.
Wow. So what is your personal favorite pickups to make?
I knew that was going to be the next question. Okay. You guys, I'm going to say it's the Queenbacker. What's the Queenbacker? The Queenbacker, it's a little bit of all the notes that I have in all my books from all the PAFs that I have rewound through the years. We all think that everybody thinks that they have the best recipe for the PAFs, but we all know that each humbucker ages a little differently depending where do you store that guitar. Do you store it on the basement? Do you store it on the attic? Do you store it next to an amp, next to a speaker? I mean, every pickup and every magnet is going to age a little differently. And I mean, but having all the notes and reading, like, this magnet was weaker. I mean, even with Joe Bonamassa, I mean, the magnets, one magnet could be weaker than the other one. I mean, the neck and the bridge and, in the middle. And it all depends because, I mean, the guitar, they all have different journeys and they all were stored on different places.
Sure.
But the wines and everything, I mean, they were kind of similar, but not quite, because we remember back in the days, the Lisona didn't have a stop. So they were putting the first bobbin, the second bobbin, and the third bobbin. But if any of those bobbins was giving them a little trouble, then the first one had more wines because they didn't stop it right there in time. And this is why when they said there were uneven wines, they were a little bit, off because of the wines in the machine. But by rewinding all these pickups, this is where the Queenbacker set was born, and that's the set, the Queenbacker set.
And you just completed another run of Joe Bonamassa's Strat, is that
correct?
Right?
And this 1963 Carol Rocks, Joe Bonamassa, they came out of his 1963 Strat that he bought with his very own money.
Right.
So it's a great story right there.
That is a great story. Yeah, I think he talked about that in his rundown. Yeah, that's great. And you've now done, I know you did Amos for him, and I think you did, was it
Skinner Birds. We did the Bunnies.
Right.
We did No Casters.
Yeah.
And there's more to come. There's more to come, With Joe Bonamassa, he's kind of part of our family. He's kind of, one of us in here. So we have a long, long, long relationship with Joe.
Yeah. Wonderful. So any more Peter Frampton sightings of late?
There's news. Yeah. You guys need to stay tuned on Seymour Duncan because there's news to come. There is MJ's 40th anniversary, and we still haven't said much about it. So, stay tuned because there's news to come.
Great. I can't wait to see what happens during the next 40 years. So looking around this room, you're literally with the greatest guitar players in the world, and you have helped shape their tone, like shape their music. That's got to just feel amazing, right?
It does feel amazing. Especially when you don't feel like I'm not corporate at all. I'm a people's lady, and I kind of show it and I prove it to them by sending them little notes and stay in contact, not only about the tone, but about personal lives, stuff that's happening, saying hi, saying I love you, because if you don't do that with all the people that you love, and I love every single one of them, it's just kind of, like I said, this is the most important thing of my life. Seymour Duncan, all the people that are surrounded by me, and, and I love every one of them,
That is genuinely touching. That really
if you guys tell me what has been the most challenging, person, I believe, I could say Invade. And why? Not as a person, he's a real super nice guy. I haven't met no one that is, Invade, because he has a particular tone. He has a particular ear, and he needed his magnets to be different sizes to give him exactly what he needed. Only in that perspective, because if you let's talk Slash, for example. Slash says to the previous artist relations guy, says, Evan, the guitars are not sounding the same. People are talking about, the tone not being the same. So Evan comes to me and lets me know about it. I said, Evan, remember Gibson is having trouble with the woods, with the finishes, with the lacquers, and I need to do a pickup with this magnet wire, thicker insulation, the same magnet, maybe, pump it up slightly and do it. I did 1, 2, 3, send him to a slice. The first one that he got, he says, how did she knew? And sometimes, believe it or not, I'm not saying that I know, but it's the stuff that God puts on me and saying, this is what you need to do for this particular person. Because for me to hit it sometimes at the first time and, and bowl one out of the park, you go, thank you, God. Because it had happened many times, like me making a pearly gate telly. And then Billy Gibbons stopping by and said, okay, try this. Then he calls me and says, MJ, what do you do to that pickup? I said, God, please tell me it worked. Please. And I said, why, Billy? MJ, I didn't need it to change none of my settings or my amps or anything. It works perfect, And I'm going, thank you, God. Thank you, and it is. I put myself into God's hands every single morning. I'm driving and I'm praying to God that I'm going to have a great day, that I'm going to talk to a lot of people, that I'm going to do great things. And that's what I love doing every single day,
Wow.
So this is why I can tell you, I see your tone in my future,
Wow. That is beautiful. All right, we're not going to beat that. Till next time, y'all. This is MJ. We're at Seymour Duncan.